I thought I saw Omi pop on, but I don't see her now. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Yay, Omi. Omi's in California, so she is probably in what, like 60 degrees?
70.
Ah!
All year round. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with the thoracic spine, neck, and shoulders. Leah, I see your request. You got it. So side lying and twist for Leah. Grab a blanket and roll it up. You're going to take the blanket and place it behind you. We're going to go straight into kind of gentle movement just because for those in Austin, it's really cold and that means the joints are typically stiff. So once you have your blanket rolled up, you're going to lay down to where the head is supported by the blanket. Your low back has a little bit of space, so it can kind of sink down. That way we can focus more on the thoracic spine. So think supported fish. Plant your feet as wide as the mat. You're going to bend your elbows and rest the arms in kind of like a goal post or 90-degree angle cactus shape where the palms face up. And we'll just take 3 of our longest, fullest breaths here. Inhaling all the way down to the base of the lungs. And exhaling fully and completely. Then begin to take the knees side to side. So slow windshield wiping. You'll inhale as the knees come to center. You exhale as the knees go to one side. And the next time the knees come back to center, just pause for an inhale. Now keep the elbows on the ground, but with your exhale, you're going to reach your arms, your fingers to point straight up to the ceiling. So elbows stay on the ground, 90-degree angle, but fingers point up. And then as your knees go to the right, bring your arms or your palms to face down. So you're lowering your hands. So you might have to pause about 6 inches above the ground. Palms face down. And then inhale, knees back to center, fingers point up towards the ceiling. Exhale, knees to the left and palms face up as the hands come down. Inhale, fingers point up, knees to center. Exhale, palms face down, knees to the right. So it's kind of like you're windshield wiping the knees side to side and then the arms in a different direction. Just keep moving like this. And you can think of this as just some gentle movement for the hips, for the shoulders. Now the next time the knees come back to center, pause there. Sweep your arms all the way up now, lifting your elbows towards the ceiling. Wrap your right elbow on top of left like you're giving yourself a hug. And then take a really big breath in. Audible exhale. Open the arms wide, take an inhale. And then exhale, opposite elbow on top. Big breath in. And out. Open the arms wide. Extend out through the fingers. Make your arms out into like a big T shape. Really stretch. And then bring the arms down towards the ground. So palms face up, just stretching the arms out into a T. Now walk your feet a little closer together and then start to take the knees to the right, but pause halfway. So you're in a twist. The knees to center, and I'll take them to the left about halfway and pause. So it's a subtle twist. Then back to center. Interlace the fingers behind the head. You're going to point your elbows up towards the ceiling. And with your exhale, lift your head to where the shoulders are just kind of barely lifting here. And you'll start to feel a little bit of the core engage. Then pick up the feet to hover. Take another breath in so the head is just light, hovering above the blanket, feet hovering. Reach your arms forward behind the thighs and then rock all the way up. Yeah, you're going to flip it around and come into tabletop position. If you want to use this blanket for padding, you can unroll it and slide it underneath your knees. Then once you're in tabletop, just explore movement. So you might be rocking your hips side to side. You might do some cat and cows. Take one more breath, just as you are. And then come back to center. Take your right leg and extend it back behind you. Tuck the toes under and do a couple pulses. So you're waking up now the foot, the ankle, probably the calf as well. I feel a stretch there. And then we'll pick the leg up and cross it over to the left. So you're in a lateral stretch. So right leg crosses over to the left. Now push into the hands so that you feel the shoulder blades separate. Your upper back feels like it's almost gonna dome, but then just take your chest and pull forward through the arms. Now arch the rib cage to the right an inch. You might even look over your left shoulder. Yeah, that's it. Bring the chest and the head back to center. Reach forward through the crown of the head. So I want you to engage core here. Push into the hands, tone the abdomen, and you can stay just as you are, or you're going to pick your left shin up to hover and then extend your left leg out straight to the left. So it's almost like you're in a lateral straight shape, like a crescent moon. Yeah, and then rebend the left knee and bring it right back to where it was. Release the knee down. Pick up your right leg, sweep it out to the right, and then all the way around to your right pinky finger. So you're in a lunge. Tuck the left toes under and lift the knee. So right foot to the outside of the right hand. Lunge. Pause for a breath. And then flatten the palms down, right foot steps back, plank pose. Now do little movements forward and back, so into the heels and then into the hands. Yeah. Next time you push back, hips up and back, down dog. Might feel good to pedal the feet here. We're just doing all this movement for those that are needing to either wake up their bodies, if you've been sitting at a desk all day, or those in Austin that have been freezing their asses off all day. Lift the heels high, lower your knees, tabletop. Good. Pick up the left leg and extend it back. Tuck the toes under. Do a couple pulses first, waking up the foot, Achilles tendon, calf. And we'll pick up the leg, take it over to the right, retuck the toes. Push into the hands so there's a subtle doming of the upper back, but then draw your heart forward so you're more like lengthening the spine rather than doming. Now arch your rib cage to the left. Maybe look over the right shoulder. And bring the torso back to center and reach forward through the crown of the head. So keeping the left leg where it is. You can push into your hands, engage the core there. Or you're gonna hover that right shin, sweep the leg out to the right. So it's kind of like you're in a crescent moon shape. Take an inhale and an exhale. Good, rebend the knee. Bring it right back to underneath that right hip. Pick your left leg up, sweep it out to the side, and then around to that pinky finger, heel toe it in. Lizard lunge. You can tuck the right toes under and lift the knee. Pause for a breath. Then flatten the palms down. Left foot steps back, plank. Hips up and back, down dog. Full breath in and out. Hovering tabletop. Lift the heels, hover the knees, and release the knees down. Right leg goes back. So we're gonna go through this a little faster to create a bit more heat. Can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs up from someone? Okay. One of you, I won't say who, is making a face. So I was like, either they can't hear me or they're just confused. Let's do some pulses. Or maybe it's none of that. Maybe they're like, I don't like this. Whatever we're doing, I don't like it. Pick up the leg to hover, cross it over to the left. Arch your rib cage to the right and peek over the left shoulder. Good, bring the torso back to center, push into the hands, stay, or pick the left leg up and extend it out to the left to hover. Crescent moon shape, right lateral shape. Bend the knee, bring it right back down, pick your right leg up. Sweep the right leg out to the side and bring it to the pinky finger. Tuck the back toes and lift the knee. Left hand stays down, right arm open, twist. Right hand comes down, step it back, down dog. Shift forward to plank. Pause or chaturanga. Up dog. Back to down dog. Big breath in. Exhale, hovering tabletop. Big breath in. Exhale, release the knees. Left leg goes back. Just a couple pulses forward and back. We'll give the wrists a break after this. Pick the leg up, sweep it over to the right. Arch the rib cage to the left. Look over the right shoulder. Bring the torso back to center. Pause here for a breath, or pick the right leg up, extend it out to the right. Bring the knee back and release it down. Pick your left leg up, sweep it out to the side, and bring it all the way around to your lizard lunge. Tuck the right toes under, lift the knee. Left arm opens, twist. Left hand comes down. This time, step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. Bend the knees and fold. Push into the feet. Strong legs come all the way up to stand. Hands to the heart. Inhale, reach out and up. Forward fold with the exhale. Halfway lift for the inhale. Pivot the heels in so the toes are pointing out. Just a couple inches. Bend the knees in line with the toes. Then bring the hands to the heart and your torso about parallel to the ground. Push into the pinky edges of the feet so your arches lift. And pause for a breath. Think of this as kind of like a variation of goddess pose. So knees turned out slightly. Opening the hips, take your inhale. And then exhale, hands down, hips up. Now heel toe the feet a little closer together. then fold. Inhale to come up halfway. You're gonna plant the hands. You can step or float it back. You can lower knees or chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Meet in downward facing dog. Pause for a long breath in and a long breath out. Inhale to lift the right leg towards the sky. Your exhale, bring it all the way through to your lunge and then rise up to your high lunge. You're going to bend the elbows and bring them in towards the rib cage. And then just start to draw the shoulder blades a little bit more towards the spine, opening up the chest. Yeah. And then opposite action, reach your arms forward. Imagine you're pressing your hands into a wall. So now you feel your shoulder blades expand and maybe there's some doming slightly in the upper back. Keep that and take your right elbow and just cross it over and keep pushing with the hands. Then wrap the arms around, maybe fingers in the palms. So you can give yourself a hug or come into Garudasana arms. You're gonna lean forward. Big breath here. Now we're gonna slide the left foot forward. So we'll keep the arms in this variation and come into a chair pose. So left foot slides forward, chair. That's it. Now if your feet are close together, heel to the feet so that they're hip width distance apart. Take the hips back a couple more inches. Keep your elbows crossed. Take the hands to the outside of the knees. And then draw your heart forward through the arms. You can stay just as you are, or if it feels good, you can round a little bit in the upper back. Yeah, now if you're rounding, pull the heart forward again to come back into an extended or long spine, straight spine. Sweep the arms out, come all the way up, straighten the legs. Then hands to the heart. Inhale, reach out and up. Forward fold with the exhale. Halfway lift for the inhale. Plant the hands. You're gonna step or float it back. We're gonna meet in downward facing dog. Inhale to lift the left leg. Bring it all the way through to your lunge. Then rise up into your high lunge. Bend the elbows, hug them in towards the rib cage. Now draw your shoulder blades towards the spine so you can actually feel those muscles working. And as they work to hug the scapula towards the spine, you might feel the chest broad and open. Then arms go forward, push an imaginary wall away from you. And keep pushing as you take left elbow on top of right. Yeah. Then give yourself a hug or fingers in the palm. Lean forward. Try to slide the right foot forward for your chair. Chair pose position or Utkatasana, fierce pose. Take the hips back another inch. Keep your elbows crossed. Reach for the outside of the knees. And either stay here, it's basically neutral spine, or flex the upper back, curl in, and do a little bit of rounding in the upper back. Then heart pulls forward again. Push into the feet, arms go out and up. Inhale as you straighten your legs. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, reach out and up. Forward fold with the exhale. Halfway lift for the inhale. Plant the hands. You can step or float, but we're going to lower all the way down to the abdomen. Then take your left arm overhead and roll to the left side. So before we get into some of the stretching or lengthening of the outer hip and the glutes, we're going to wake them up first. So you're going to pick your right leg up to hover. Yeah, and then bring your right hand to the rib cage just for a second. I want you to feel the rib cage hug in to the back of the body. And then keep that. Bend the right knee and take the knee out in front of you to where it's in line with your hip. So right knee in line with right hip. Now you'll probably feel your left leg is working really hard. It's kind of pushing down into the ground to help stabilize you. Also, take your awareness to the outer right hip. Try to engage the outer right hip, the glute muscles. And maybe you can feel it more if you take your knee up to the ceiling just a few inches. And then you lower it down so it's level with your hip again. So you're going to go up. Sometimes this is called clamshells, right? Knee going up and down. And if that's fairly easy, extend the leg out straight. And then take the leg up a few inches and then down. Up and down. Yeah, that's it. Leg out in front of you. Yep. Okay, right leg meets the left. You're going to roll to the abdomen. Take your elbows forward for Sphinx Pose. Press your forearms down and draw your chest forward. And then push into the forearms and your knees. Curl the front of the body in to lift your hips up, kind of like you're rounding your back. Then nice and slow, let your pelvis come down, pull the chest forward. Think of this as like cat and cow. Push into the forearms and the knees, lift up. Yep, and then slowly lower. Right arm goes overhead. Roll to the right side. Pick the left leg up to hover directly over the right. Bring your left hand to the rib cage. Try to hug the rib cage in towards the back of the body. Bend the right knee. Take the knee forward, so out in front of you instead of towards the ceiling. Yeah. Now you're going to lift that left knee up towards the ceiling just an inch or two and then lower it back down so it's level with your hip. You're going to do that a few times. So really what's happening is the outer hip muscles and the glutes contract to open the inner hip. And if that's fairly easy and you're like, I really want more sensation, extend the left leg out straight. And it's going to go straight out in front of you. You'll go up a few inches, bent knee or straight, and then down. That's it. Now, left leg meets the right. Bring your left elbow down and roll into your Sphinx. Push your forearms down and your knees down. You're going to curl up, lift your hips, and then lower right back down. One more time, curl up and lower. Now, keep the heart lifted. Slide the hands back next to the rib cage. Come into Cobra Pose. As you lower the chest about halfway, pick up the legs. So Locust Pose, Shalabhasana. Now think of this as a teeter-totter. As the legs come down, the heart lifts up, Cobra. Yeah, as the heart comes down, the legs lift up, Locust. One more time. Then legs come down, release the head. Tuck the toes under, hips up and back into your downward facing dog. We're going to put those first two sequences together and add on a little bit. Take a big inhale. Nice long exhale. And then hovering tabletop. Take the breath in. At the end of the exhale, release the knees down. Right leg goes back, tuck the toes under, push back one time. Then pick up the right leg, cross it over to the left. Maybe arch your rib cage to the right. Bring the torso back to center, pause, or sweep your left leg out to the side. Left leg comes back in, release the knee down. Pick your right leg up. Take it all the way around to the outside, that pinky finger, your lizard lunge. Tuck the left toes and lift the left knee. Might add a twist, right arm can go up. As the right hand comes down, heel toe your right foot in an inch or two to this midline. Rise up into your high lunge. Elbows next to the ribs. Might add a little bit more of a heart opener and lift the chest. Then arms forward, push through the hands, right elbow on top, give yourself a hug. Or Garudasana arms, you're gonna lean forward, chair pose, left foot slides forward. Take the hands to the outside of the knees, draw your chest forward, and keep drawing the chest forward as you fold. Maybe the hands walk down to the outside of the calves or the ankles, release the head. Might straighten the legs a little bit more. Then re-bend the knees, take the arms out and up, come to standing. Inhale. Then exhale, hands come down. Shift weight into the left foot, lift the right knee. You're gonna open and place that foot, so it can go to ankle, calf, thigh. Yeah. Lift up through both sides of the body. And then from here, we're basically going to bring the top of the right hand to the right knee. Yeah. And then can you lift up through both sides and create just a tiny bit of a lateral stretch, that crescent shape, leaning over to the right. Then come back to center. Pull the knee forward and then release it down. Inhale to reach the arms up. Take the arms behind the back. You can stack the palms or interlace the fingers. Roll the shoulder blades in towards the spine and open the chest. Keep the chest open as you bend your knees, hinge forward and fold. Push into the feet. Come all the way back up to stand. Take the arms up. Then hands to the heart, opposite side. So you're going to lift your left knee. Then open in place for tree. Again, that left foot can go anywhere. Once you're stable, you're going to take your arms up. Then the top of the left hand can come to the left knee. You're going to lift up through the sides of the body, maybe move into a tiny lateral stretch, leaning over to the left. And back to center, knee goes forward, and release it down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms behind the back. So switch it out, opposite hand or opposite pinky finger. Open across the chest and take the inhale. Bend the knees, hinge forward and fold. Float the arms down, come up halfway. Plant the hands, step or float it back. Make your way to downward facing dog. Good. In down dog, let's take an inhale. Equally long exhale. And then hovering tabletop. Knees touch down. Left leg goes back. Tuck the toes under. Push back one time with the heel. And pick the leg up. Take it over to the right. You might arch your rib cage to the left. Bring the rib cage back to center. You can pause for a breath or sweep that right leg out to the right. Bring it back in to lower the knee. Take your left leg out to the side, and then all the way around to the left pinky finger. Tuck the right toes under and lift the knee. Right hand can stay down on block or floor. Left arm opens, twist. As the left hand comes down, heel toe your left foot in once or twice. So you can come up into your high lunge. There's nothing wrong with the lunge being wide. Sometimes it's just hard to find stability. Elbows next to the ribs. Might add a little bit more of a back bend. Left elbow on top of right. You're going to push and then wrap the arms around. Lean forward. Right foot slides forward, chair pose. Hands to the outside of the knees. So instead of rounding the spine, pull the chest forward and continue to fold. The hands might slide down. Release the head. Rebend the knees deeply. Take your hips back. Inhale, arms out and up. Come all the way to standing. Then hands to the heart. So bend the knees, chair pose. Yeah. And then just kind of lean your weight into your left foot. And then take your right hip and hike it up some. And pick up that right foot to hover. Yeah. And then level the pelvis and release the foot down. Yeah, other side. So you're going to shift weight. Pick up the foot, hike the hip a little, and then level the pelvis, release the foot down. So that might be enough. It's kind of like that lateral we did in our plank, the lateral we did in our tree pose, but now we're going to add on the outer hip work we did, side lying. So you're going to shift weight to one side, doesn't matter which. You're going to pick up the foot, hike the hip, hands to the heart. Yeah, and then slowly extend the leg out. Bend the knee, level the pelvis, release the foot down. Yeah, other side. Pick up the foot, hike the hip a little, take the leg out. Ooh, that was a good pop. I don't know if you can hear it on your end. Rebend the knee. Come back to center, release it down. Yeah, straighten both legs. Inhale, arms out and up. Forward fold. Halfway lift. Plant the hands, step or float it back. We'll lower all the way down to the abdomen. Then walk your elbows forward for Sphinx Pose. Pause here for a breath. Take your arms out wide into a V shape. Yeah, tend to the palms. So fingertips down, palms lifted. And then push gently into the fingertips, draw the chest forward. You want to add the legs for a little locust pose. You can lift the legs to hover. Then lower the legs down. I'm going to turn your hands in. The elbows can point out. Let your forehead or a cheek rest on your stacked hands. Bend the knees and windshield wipe your legs. And bring the legs back to center and release them down. We'll bring the hands next to the ribs. Come into your cobra pose. Good, release. Tuck your toes. Press back into child's pose. Just take a moment with the toes tucked under to stretch out the feet. Then downward facing dog. Inhale to lift the right leg. With your exhale, bring it all the way through to your lunge. Lower the left knee down. Now make sure that you are not perpendicular with this left thigh or femur, but instead diagonal. So take the pelvis a little more forward until that thigh bone is slightly more diagonal. Engage your left glutes to aid in opening up the front of the thigh or the hip flexors. And then option to take the right arm up to a twist or reach the right hand back to catch that left foot and hug the heel in. Now, keep your twist, but turn your gaze slightly down and make sure that your left shoulder is still stacked over the wrist, meaning we're not dropping the left shoulder in as a way to move into the twist deeper. Good, release. Right hand comes down. You're gonna pick up the right leg and sweep it back into three-legged dog. Now place the knee for pigeon. And if you know this variation of pigeon does not serve your knees well, you can come down to lying for supine pigeon. Here, I want you to come up to your fingertips. Squeeze the legs together like you're trying to drag the left leg forward and the right outer hip back so that there's actually some space between the pelvis and the floor. We're not sinking down. And then use that to have a little bit of buoyancy. So maybe you come to your fingertips or maybe the hands slide back and they're on blocks. Yeah, and then if you're stable here, bend the elbows and draw them in towards the ribs. Hug the rib cage in, but think of rolling the shoulder blades a little bit more towards the spine and lifting the chest. Then release the hands down. Tuck the left toes under. Glue the right thigh to the chest to pick it up, and then step it back into your plank. Pause there for a breath. Just kind of neutralizing. Hug the legs in, hug the core in. Okay, down dog. Inhale to lift the left leg. Your exhale, bring it through to your lunge. Lower the right knee down. And then check in with the foundation. So if our right thigh is perpendicular, let's maybe lengthen the stance, or maybe all it takes is just taking the pelvis a little more forward so the thigh is diagonal. Right hand down, left arm might go up or reach back and catch the right foot. And hug the heel in. Keep your twist, but turn your gaze down, just so we can see the alignment of the right shoulder. So if the shoulder is dipping, it's kind of that same thing when the shoulder drops in chaturanga, right? Where the pec is shortening and the shoulder blade's pulling away. I want you to wrap the right shoulder blade in and stack the head of the shoulder over the right wrist. Good, release. Left hand down. I'm going to sweep it back, three-legged down dog. Then knee to the left wrist for your pigeon, or any variation you like sleeping pigeon. Come to your fingertips, hug the legs together. You might stay here, or if you're feeling stable, you can slide the hands back. Hands go to hips, or elbows hug in towards the ribs. You're going to draw the shoulder blades in as you lift the heart, coming into a little bit of a back bend. Remember, rib cage hugs in. And then hands come down. Tuck the right toes under. Glue that left thigh to the chest to pick it up. Step it back, plank, and then pause here for a full round of breath. If your wrists are getting tired, you can come down to your forearms. Give the wrist a break. Or skip all this. Rest in child's pose. Hips up and back, down dog. Take a long breath in. And a long breath out. Inhale to lift the right leg. Bend the knee and stack the hip. Bring the knee around to the outside of the right shoulder and then plant the foot right outside of the pinky finger. Lower the left knee down. So this time we're a little wider in our lunge. Left hand stays down, right arm opens, twist. Option to catch that left foot and hug the heel in. Now if you want to move a little bit deeper into those hip flexors, more sensation or stretch, you're going to take your hand and flip it to the big toe side and then push into that left hand as you rotate your chest to face the floor. So because our stance is a little wider, that right shoulder is kind of to the inside of that right thigh. And you can stay there, or you can bend your left elbow to fold an inch or two more. When you're bending that left elbow, think chaturanga, so strong left arm. Then straighten that left arm. Yeah, and release the right hand to the outside of the foot. Heel toe the foot in a few inches. Tuck the back toes and lift the knee. Now squeeze the legs in towards the center of the mat. When you feel stable, rise up into your high lunge. Hands to the heart, lean forward. One-footed chair pose. Left leg is going to slide forward, left ankle on top of right thigh. Bend the right knee and send the hips back. Good. Option to take the hands down to blocks or the floor. If you know and love the arm balance here, you can take it. Walk the hands forward. Bend the elbows and take the shin to the elbows. And take one more breath wherever we are. So if your hands are on the floor, let's walk them towards your right foot a few inches and come up to your fingertips. And then push firmly into that right foot to bring the hands to the heart. Then come the rest of the way up and just release, mountain pose. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Inhale the arms out and up. Forward fold with the exhale. Halfway lift for the inhale. Plant the hands, step or float. You're going to make your way to downward facing dog. Long breath in. Long breath out. Inhale to lift the left leg. Bend the knee and stack the hip. Bring the knee around to the outside of the left shoulder. You're going to lift the knee high and slowly release the foot outside of the pinky finger. Then right knee touches down. Left arm can go up into the twist, or you might be reaching back for that right foot as an option to hug the heel in. If you have the foot, you want to move deeper into the stretch of the front of the thigh or the hip flexors. You're going to flip the hand to the big toe side. Rotate your chest down to the floor. You might bend your right elbow, kind of like chaturanga as you sink. Then press that right arm straight. Good. As you release the left hand and the right foot, we're going to heel toe the left foot in a few inches. So your hand is to the outside. Tuck the right toes and lift the knee. Now squeeze the legs together. Then rise up into your high lunge. Hands to the heart. One-footed chair. Right foot's going to slide forward, then you're going to pick it up. Take right ankle on top of that left thigh. Bend the left knee and send the hips back. And of course, option, hands can go to blocks or hands can go to the floor. We're working on that arm balance. Right, notice how that right hip really wants to dip. I'm feeling it on this side more than the other. Maybe you felt it on the first side more. But the idea is that the pelvis is level. But so if your hands are on the ground, you're going to walk them back a few inches and come to your fingertips. And then push firmly into that left foot to bring the hands to the heart. And come the rest of the way up and just release into your mountain pose. Good. Inhale, reach out and up. Forward fold with your exhale. This is your last opportunity. Plant the hands, step or float. So you could move through chaturanga. And then up dog. I'm going to meet in downward facing dog. And lower your knees. If you want a nice back of the body stretch, bring your knees together and press back child's pose. If you want to continue with the heart opening, take your knees wide. Let your chest sink down between the thighs. Take one of your longest breaths. And then roll it up one vertebrae at a time. Take your hips to one side and bring your legs all the way around to the front. And then scoot forward. We're eventually going to lie down, so you're going to scoot forward to the front of the mat. We'll bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees drop down. Then inhale to sit up tall. Good. Keep pressing the soles of the feet together. And lift the knees a few inches so you're actually resisting gravity. Slide the hands more towards the middle of the shin and lean back to where your torso is diagonal to the floor. And then maybe the feet can start to hover. Now you're going to slide the hands to the outside of the knees. The fingers will kind of cup around the front of the kneecap. And you're going to start to curl in and kind of round here. And eventually the knees will come together and you'll continue to round to lower all the way down and release the head. Now go back to the original position where the knees go wide and the hands slide towards the ankles, but let your feet separate this time. Lying on your back. Kind of like Supta Baddha Konasana, with the feet hovering. Now imagine that the knees can move a bit more towards the front of the mat. So feel a little more sensation in the inner hips. Then you'll slide the hands again to the outside of the knees, draw the knees together, and extend the legs up towards the ceiling. Relax your arms down by the sides of the body. Just pause there for a breath. Bend the knees. Keep the feet hovering about hip width distance apart. And then really tone the low part of the abdomen to bring the feet down as slow as you possibly can. And then once the feet touch down, relax for a moment. So hips heavy, feet heavy. Now we're going to do basically like cat and cow, but only in the low back. And we'll do it through a movement that is just basically tilting the pelvis into an anterior and then posterior tilt. So keep the pelvis on the ground and just kind of scoop the tailbone towards the ceiling. Feel your low back flatten to the floor and your low belly tone. And then opposite, reach your sit bones down towards the heels and feel your low back arch away from the floor. And just do that one more time. So you scoop the tailbone, you're kind of rounding the low back. And then you're arching the low back, sit bones reach towards the heels. Now come into a neutral spine. Pick the feet up again. And once again, Baddha Konasana, let your knees go wide and take your hands to grab the ankles or the middle of the shin. And your arms are straight here. And now you're going to do that same tilt. It's going to be much smaller. Sit bones reach down towards the front edge of the mat. And then you kind of scoop the tailbone. And what you might feel is when you reach the sit bones down to the front edge of the mat, the sticky mat is kind of catching the back of the head. And then as you tilt the pelvis, it's pulling the shoulders away from the ears. You might feel a little bit of length for the neck, or maybe just a little stretch along the top of the shoulders. I have to kind of refirm the grip of the hands almost each time. Good. Then just relax that, knees together, and release the feet down. Extend your legs out straight for a moment, just because the knees have been bent for a while. Maybe shake the legs out. And then bring the feet back in to hip width distance. Take your left leg up towards the ceiling. Interlace your fingers behind the thigh. I'm going to move a bit more into the stretch of the hamstrings. You can take your right leg and extend it forward. Now keep your left leg straight, reaching towards the ceiling. Relax your arms out, maybe like in a T shape or cactus arm shape. And you'll take your left leg and cross it over to the right, just about halfway. Pause there. There might be a little stretch for the lateral hamstring. Sometimes I feel it in the outer hip. And then you're going to take your right arm and stretch it overhead. Take your left leg and cross it all the way over to the right until you roll onto your right side. Roll all the way over onto the right side. Bring your left hand down in front of the chest. Now tuck the right toes under and walk the leg back behind you. Then bend the right knee. You can just stay there, or your left hand might reach back to catch that right foot. You need to be really mindful of this because if the hip flexors are tight, we don't want to force the right foot down to the ground, right? Because you can feel how that might be a pull in your knee. But if it's accessible, lower that right foot down towards the ground behind you. Or right heel to right sit bone. So as you lay on your side, this is a little bit more about your left hamstrings and your right hip flexors or the front of the right thigh. But if you'd rather spend a little bit more time in the twist, you're going to lean back as if your foot is kind of pushing into that left hand. And then once your head has come down, take your right arm and extend it straight out, kind of like that original T position instead of overhead. Don't force the left shoulder down. Take about 2 breaths wherever you are. And then we'll release. It's going to roll on to your back. Once you're there, you might hug the knees into the chest. Maybe do a little circle along the low back. And plant both feet on the floor. Extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. Interlace the fingers behind the thigh. I'm going to slide the left leg forward. If it's a little too much for the hamstrings, you can always bend that right knee. Now you'll relax your arms down and take that right leg across the body just about halfway. Pause for a breath. Then extend the left arm overhead. Roll to your left side as you lower the right leg down. And tuck the left toes under, maybe walk that foot back behind you a few inches. Option to bend the knee. Take your right hand and catch the foot. And again, be really mindful of the knee. But if it's feeling accessible today, you can let that left foot start to drop down towards the floor. Option to stay, or if you want to move into the twist, you're going to lean back. Take your left arm and extend it out to the side rather than overhead. Take one more breath. And then we'll release. Unwind. Roll onto your back. Hug the knees into the chest. You might explore circling the knees or happy baby. And then if there's any other movement or if there's a shape that you feel like would really complete your practice, And just start to move accordingly. Maybe that just means longer rest. And on your own time, we'll start to make our way to our last shape. This can be seated meditation, can be legs up the wall, Shavasana. Kylie, that couch is like the perfect height. It's right at the back of the knees. It's amazing. Yeah, you can use furniture. Like Kylie's using a couch and she's taking the back of the knees of the couch on the edge of the seat. You can use, sometimes a bed is a little too high. That's why that couch is just perfect. And then wherever you end up, let's start to soften the gaze or close the eyes. And we'll take the biggest breath we can in through the nose. And then out the mouth. And then let your breath find its natural rhythm. And as you settle in, just begin to notice what's taking up space for you in this moment. Is it a thought that is occupying the mind? An event from your day or an emotion that's surfacing? Or maybe it's something that's happening in the body. I want you to imagine you can utilize this time to create a little bit of space. And visualize the inhale moving into those places. Whether it's a place in the body or moving into the mind, and wrap your inhale around whatever it is that's taking up too much space. Wrap the inhale around a thought, a feeling, physical or emotional. And as you breathe out, imagine all of it leaving with the exhale. And maybe it's something that you feel like needs your attention. But can you set it aside just for now? So you can be fully present. imagine that in these moments when nothing is needed or required of you, you can fully be present here with your breath and feel, hopefully, a sense of nourishment. Or even just a moment of peace. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. If you're ready to move, just bring the awareness to the body and find small movements, wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes. And then you might start to stretch the arms and the legs. Good. Bend the knees. Roll to your side. And make your way to a comfortable seat. Close by bringing the palms together, let the thumbs rest on the chest. And as we close this practice together, I invite you to ask yourself, what did my practice mean to me tonight? I acknowledge that some days my practice is just simply about moving my body or being in my body, because there's just so much going on that it's hard to kind of stay present and grounded. While other days it's about really tapping into this inner experience of peace or ease. And then some days it's really all just the spiritual practice of trying to know myself with a capital S a little better. And then whatever you needed from this practice, whatever it meant for you tonight, see if you can sum it up in one word. And this is the essence of the practice that we take with us. And this is something that we can probably nurture and tend to throughout the rest of the evening. Whatever that looks like for you. And so we'll close taking this energy, the essence of our practice with us with the sound of Om. You can listen or chant on your end, but let's all take a breath together. So in through the nose and out. And sealing with Om. Thanks, everyone.